In this video, we're talking about the Fujifilm X-S10. My hands-on review after 4 months of use. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Florian, good to see you. To every single new subscriber, thank you guys, you're great. For everyone who's tuning in again, guys, you're great as well, welcome back. Today we're talking about the Fujifilm X-S10. After 4 months of use, my hands-on review, what I think, how I got on, my struggles, my likes, my dislikes. Before we dive into my hands-on review, my review about the Fujifilm X-S10, I would like to mention that I'm in no affiliation with any camera brand, so neither is anyone paying me to say anything good or bad about the Fujifilm X-S10. Everything you see here is my own personal opinion, how I got on over the last 4 months with the Fujifilm X-S10. Let's start off with the ergonomics of the Fujifilm X-S10. They stripped the body quite a bit down, so they removed a lot of dials and buttons, which you're probably used to from the X-T3 and X-T4, but that's probably their new look, minimalistic look they're going for. However, if you ask me, they've done a banging job with the hand grip, with the deep grip they added onto the X-S10. It is very comfortable to hold and the size just perfectly fits my hands. So if you go out and you shoot longer term, having a deep grip where you literally can balance your camera on is very nice to have. And I need to say, the grip perfectly fits my hands and they've done a very good job with that. The menu itself is Fujifilm's typical menu layout. So if you're a Fujifilm shooter already, you're gonna have no problems to find settings, to change settings, whatever you might looking for. If you are a first-time Fujifilm shooter, you probably take 5-10 minutes to figure the menu out and you get very quick, very comfortable with your menu itself. Also, there are still enough buttons and dials you can customizable to fit the camera for your needs. So menu wise, it is Fujifilm's layout and it's simple, easy and very easy to use. The Fujifilm X-S10 get classified as a baby X-T4. You get basically the same sensor in the X-S10 like the X-T4 with 26 million megapixel. You can shoot up to 8 frames per second burst mode, 4K at 30 frames per second, whilst you can record internally 8-bit and to an external monitor 10-bit. Slow motion, you can shoot either 120 frames per second or up to 240 frames per second, while this would be in full HD. Let's talk about image quality, guys. Basically, the Fujifilm X-S10 uses the same sensor and the same specs for still images like an X-T4. Therefore, you get a lot of dynamic range. The files or the raw files are very capable of recovering highlights or boosting up shadows. So the images I got out of the X-S10 are more than satisfying for myself and I'm sure for a lot of people as well. If we're thinking about, we're still uploading a lot of content to social media. Therefore, I think having 26 megapixel and the quality you get out of the X-S10, which is second to none, is more than satisfying. Talking about filming, 4K up to 30 frames per second, 8-bit footage. I think for a camera which costs just £1,000, the footage is more than capable and will deliver what you expect from this camera. Having the option to shoot 10-bit to an external monitor is even better and it's great. However, you need to buy an external monitor which is capable of recording to the monitor itself, which probably will cost you another few £100. I think that the 8-bit footage you get out of a Fujifilm X-S10 will be more than satisfying for a lot of people. Which brings me down to another point. High ISO in filming. I'm more than happy to push the Fujifilm X-S10 up to 2500, 3200 ISO when I film my videos. I think the grain and noise you get is very minimal and the X-S10 is more than capable of handling ISO ranges up to 3200 for filming. The autofocus is very speedy in good light, also in bad light. I didn't struggle many times to hit my focus, or I had the Fujifilm X-S10 on a gimbal and been filming a short clip from myself, and the focus just hit and was set on my face. I didn't use any face detection, so I just had the autofocus set to continuous and the camera nicely locked onto me. So I don't think that we need to worry too much about the autofocus. It does a great job and it followed my face or me as a person walking down very nicely. The Ibis is rated up to 6 stops of stabilization. And I think the Ibis works still better with non-stabilized lenses, such as like the 23mm f2, 16 1.4. So basically your prime lenses will work very nicely with the Ibis. However, because I'm using mainly the 18 to 55 2.8 to 4, which is a stabilized zoom lens on a Fujifilm X-S10, and I still think that this combination works really well together. What I don't like so much is that the lens overrides the Ibis. So basically if you switch off your lens stabilization, it overrides the camera body and switches the Ibis off as well. And I hope Fuji will address this at some point with a firmware update, so we can switch the lens stabilization off but keep the Ibis on, rather than switching the lens stabilization off and the Ibis in the body switches off as well. Beside from that, I think the Ibis does a very good job. It's very stable, or your footage is very stable, and having such a small body and form factor, and they squeezed the smaller Ibis in, is definitely fantastic. Fujifilm X-S10 does got a Variangle LCD, and I like to believe that we potentially see this type of LCD in future models as well, such as like when they bring out the XH2 or perhaps the XT5. Who knows what their plans are currently, but I like to think that we're gonna see a Variangle LCD more often now in future models. The LCD itself is nice, crisp, clean. You got a touch screen as well, which I personally not a big fan of it, so I switched this option off. I just don't like touching accidentally the screen and then changing my settings and perhaps realizing it half an hour later when I filmed already another half an hour clip. But having an option LCD and touchscreen is definitely beneficial. Let's talk about battery life, guys. They're still using the old batteries from a Fujifilm X-T2 and X-T3, but packed into the body an Ibis. So on average, if you're shooting still images, it probably won't affect you really much. Like the battery's been rated to 325 shots still images. Potentially with the newer Ibis, you might get around 300 shots out of one battery. If you film, it's slightly different because you always got your continuous focus running. The Ibis constantly works. So I think that I get out of one battery roughly an hour worth of video work at the moment. Depends what I film, how I film, and of course the situation related. Is it cold outside? Is it warm outside? All those factors matters for a battery as well. Because I own the Fujifilm X-T3, I still had spare batteries hanging around. In this case, it didn't bother me too much, the battery life of an X-S10. However, an updated battery or even a newer battery just for this model probably would have been nice and beneficial. But for the price tag of £1,000, having the old batteries, and you probably still got some hanging around, is absolutely fine. You just grab a few spare batteries and then you're good to go. Ease of use. I think this Fujifilm X-S10 or the camera is very easy to use. You got all dials on your fingertips if you want to. You got your ISO button on top, you got your Q button on top. You can change your aperture, you can change your speed or your shutter speed. So everything is very minimalistic and everything is well thought through. You got everything on your fingertips if needed. The menus are the menus, as we had the discussion earlier about it already. They are Fujifilm menus, they're easy to use as well. So generally speaking, for someone who would pick this up as a first time Fujifilm shooter, I think it would be a very good purchase, and you probably won't take long to get used to this new form factor of Fujifilm. However, coming from an X-T3, it is slightly different, and I had some time to get used to this new form factor because I was used to have my ISO, my shutter speed, or any sort of buttons on top, and I could twist them. You can customizable your button on top as well to change it to make it more approachable for your use. But generally speaking, and probably that's my conclusion about this camera, for £1,000 4K capability plus Ibis, unfortunately just one card slot, but it's meant to be their mid-range beginner camera. You can't go wrong really, guys. The footage I got out of it, the images I got out of it, I'm more than satisfied with the Fujifilm X-S10. No camera is perfect nowadays, and there will be always something you might figure out. You think, oh, I don't like this so much, I would rather have it like a X-T3, X-T4, or like a different type of camera brand. However, Fujifilm did a great job with the Fujifilm X-S10, and I'm looking forward to trying it more out. We're still stuck in lockdown, so we're not allowed as much as we used to be before. So my experience or my usage is a bit limited at the moment, but I'm looking forward to go more out when we're allowed again, film more, and also gonna take a X-S10 on a portrait shoot and see how the X-S10 works on a portrait shoot, how the image quality comes out on natural shoot, on a studio shoot, or whatever might comes up. So guys, with that said, I hope you liked this video, and if you do, I would appreciate if you could like, comment and subscribe. And if you got any questions towards the Fujifilm X-S10, drop them down in the comments, let me know. Otherwise, I see you in the next one. Cheers guys.